They sent me alone into the western ridge above Elker Province, a jagged, cloud-shrouded stretch of the Costari Mountains that eats careless men alive. My name is Sergeant Riona Vale, age 29, reconnaissance sniper, and ghost, if you ask most of the special operations community. For the last 6 hours, I'd been moving through that mist like it was stitched to my skin, tracking enemy movement from elevations the SEAL unit below couldn't safely access. They had no clue I was up there. That was the point. My mission was solo overwatch. Eyes only. No engagement, unless things went wrong. They did. Contact. Multiple shooters on the upper line. Estimate 2,000 meters or more. We can't see them. The SEAL team's radio burst into life, panic folding itself into static. The voice belonged to their team lead, somewhere 1,000 meters below, pinned behind rocks with his men. My pulse didn't spike. It never does. The trick is staying so calm that even time seems to slow around you. I pulled out my rangefinder, scanning the ridgeline through parting veils of fog, but even before I found anything, I knew what had just happened. Enemy snipers. High ground. Advantage absolute. Then I heard the second voice. Quieter, tense. They're outside our effective range. We need support, but there's no one. There was someone. Me. I slung my custom-built 338 Luma Magnum from my shoulder and began walking, deliberate, straight out of the mist like a whisper taking shape. The SEALs didn't see me until I was already close. One of them raised his rifle, shouting, "Identify yourself." I didn't stop. I just dropped to one knee behind a rock, unshouldered my rifle, and said 4 calm words. I've got the distance. It had started 72 hours earlier when intel flagged a Tier 1 enemy commander holed up in a compound near Elker Ridge. The SEAL unit's task was recon. Confirm the target. Engage if possible. Mine was different. I'd been inserted the night before they landed, dropped in by high altitude, jumped to avoid detection. No one was supposed to know I existed. Outside Colonel Davis Trent, the op commander. My orders were tight. Overwatch from elevation, radio silence unless critical. And I'd followed them. 3 days alone, moving above 8,000 feet, navigating crumbling shale cliffs and frozen brush. I charted enemy patrols, marked sniper nests. I drank melted snow, ate from a ration pouch the size of a paperback, and slept in hides so well concealed I vanished completely from thermal scans. Not a single SEAL knew I was nearby. Until now. 12 operators huddled behind broken stone as rounds cracked overhead. The leader, Lieutenant Jace Morrow, turned toward me like I was an apparition conjured by desperation. His voice half incredulous, half demanding. "Who the hell are you?" I didn't turn. Just set up my tripod. Sergeant Riona Vale. Independent Overwatch asset. Been on station for 72 hours. Your team's taking fire from snipers around 2,000 meters. That's my lane. We didn't request counter-sniper support. You didn't know you had me, I replied. My tasking was compartmented. His second-in-command, Chief Ellis Maddox, gestured toward the northern ridgeline. Higher ground, maybe 2,100 meters out. We've been taking fire for 10 minutes. No visuals. One of ours took a hit to the plate. Didn't punch through, but he's hurting. Do they move between shots? Feels like it. Fog helps them vanish after each round. I nodded and marked coordinates as I scanned. 1,960, 2,015, 2,080. Then I said, "Lieutenant, I need your team under hard cover. Don't move. No return fire for 15 minutes. Let them think they've pinned you." Morrow studied me, saw the rifle, the scope tuned so finely it looked surgical, the calm in my voice like I'd done this 100 times. Because I had. "Respectfully, Sergeant," he asked, "you really think you can take those shots?" I looked through the scope and replied without blinking. My longest confirmed kill is 2,340 meters. I think I can manage. I could feel the doubt hanging in the air behind me like steam off wet stone. I didn't blame them. Most snipers wouldn't attempt a shot at 2,000 meters, not with shifting fog and inconsistent wind. But most snipers weren't me. I've made shots that had to cross a canyon and a question mark. I adjusted my position atop a jagged rock ledge, laying prone and steady. My rifle rested perfectly level. I pulled out my compact weather unit and checked the variables. Temperature 51 degrees Fahrenheit, humidity 76%, wind at 11 miles per hour from the northwest. I fed the numbers into my ballistic calculator. 41, 2 MOA elevation. 7, for MOA windage. At 2,040 meters, my bullet would be in the air for just over 3 seconds, time enough to make or break everything. I dialed my scope and scanned the ridgeline for any hint of movement. For 7 minutes, I saw nothing. The seals stayed still, as instructed. Fog crept in like smoke, then drifted away. I scanned trees, rocks, shadows. Then I saw it. Just a flicker. A shift in texture, not shape. A human figure sliding into position behind a boulder barely taller than a backpack. He was prepping for another shot, likely assuming no one could reach him from this distance. He was wrong. Visual on one shooter. Ridge marker 208. Estimated range, 2,047 meters. Confirming. Maddox whispered, "That's him. That's the angle of impact we've been taking fire from." I adjusted, held my breath, and let the moment stretch. Breathing, pause, trigger prep. The rifle cracked like thunder on velvet. I stayed in the optic, riding the recoil smooth, watching the flight like a prayer arcing into fog. 3.1 seconds later, I saw the body fall. Hit. Target down at 2,047 meters. Silence followed, heavier than before. They'd seen it. Witnessed something that wasn't supposed to be real. A 1.25 mile shot in mountain fog. Clean. Lethal. No retake. Morrow keyed his radio. Target confirmed down. Shot originated from, Jesus. That was your shot? I nodded once. Still scanning. You said there were 3. They didn't answer. Didn't need to. For minutes later, I saw another. The fog parted again, briefly, like a stage curtain. This one was higher, westward, ducking low behind a rock outcrop. He was watching the seals, assuming his comrades still had them pinned. Bad assumption. Second shooter. Ridgeline west. 2,085 meters. Adjusting. Wind was marginally stronger up there, cross-current from a valley funnel. I accounted for it, double-checked elevation hold, and fired again. The enemy sniper didn't even have time to flinch. He collapsed mid-shift. Second down. Behind me, Maddox exhaled slowly. Those were the 2 best shots I've seen in my life. And I've worked with a dozen elite snipers. It's just math, I replied, dialing back to scan. He scoffed. Nobody does math like that. The third sniper took longer to find. Fog pressed in hard, eating visibility to under 300 meters. I waited, watching nothing, trusting my instinct and ground-reading experience. This ridge had taught me patience and taught others to die for lacking it. Then came a whisper of motion near a tree stump north of the previous kill zone. Third shooter. 2,013 meters. Lying low, adjusting scope. I let the wind guide me. Waited for the twitch in his elbow that signaled firing prep. Then I sent the round. And like the others, he dropped into silence. 3 confirmed, I said quietly. No further movement. Morrow came beside me now. He wasn't doubting anymore. Just watching. "Sergeant Vale," he said. "You just saved 12 lives before we even started our mission. You always shoot like that." I shrugged. "Only when I'm bored." He laughed, the first lightness since I'd arrived. "Tell me you're staying with us through the objective." "You're stuck with me, Lieutenant. Let's go finish the job." We began moving 15 minutes later, ghosting downhill while the mist veiled our descent. The enemy snipers were no longer a threat, and with that danger neutralized, the SEALs could finally advance toward their objective, a remote compound nestled in a valley bowl 1,400 meters away. I stayed high, flanking them from the upper ridge, my boots silent on the shale. My rifle slung over my shoulder, always ready. Lieutenant Morrow matched pace beside me at one point and asked, "I need to know what you're capable of. Is this just long-range support, or are you with us the whole way?" "I'm with you," I replied. "Extreme range is my bread and butter, but I've trained for all distances. You've got precision support until this mission is complete." He nodded. "Then you're part of the team." We reached a jagged outcropping that overlooked the valley compound. Through the shifting fog, we could see the rooftops, stone walls, and a few scattered movement trails, guards, likely, or foot patrols. The structures were low and square, clustered like teeth around a courtyard. I dropped to prone and glassed the sight through my scope. Compound sits at 1,410 to 1,500 meters, depending on where you hit. Guard tower northeast, heavy machine gun nest on the roof, and a fighting position along the west wall. "Can you hit all 3? "Yes." But once I fire, they'll know we're coming. Moro bit the inside of his cheek. If we eliminate those positions first, we'll have the momentum. I'll need 2 minutes to range and calculate. Then I can drop them all inside of a minute. Do it. I ranged each target carefully. Guard tower, 1,437 meters. Machine gun nest, 1,485 meters. Western fighting position, 1,392 meters. I ran 3 sets of ballistics. Adjusted my scope between each. Mapped the sequence in my head. First, guard tower, eliminate observation. Second, machine gun, remove sustained firepower. Third, western position, break lateral defense. Fog crept up again, but didn't stay. It was like the mountain itself wanted to watch. I'm ready, I whispered. Say the word. Send it. The guard tower's sentry was first. He stood lazily, weapon across his chest, completely unaware. Crack. He dropped like a puppet with its strings cut. I worked the bolt smoothly and shifted to the rooftop gunner. Crack. The gunner folded over the mounted MG, slumping across it like he'd taken a nap. Third, the fighters on the west wall. One exposed himself while lighting a cigarette, of all things. Crack. He pitched backward off the wall. All 3 engaged, I reported. Tower clear. MG neutralized. Western position disrupted. Copy. We move now. Go, go. The SEALs surged forward like a silent storm. Moro at point, Maddox sweeping with the second element. I stayed prone, watching every rooftop, every window, every sliver of movement. A figure popped up from a roof with a scoped rifle, aiming toward the team. Range, 1,450. Crack. He never got the shot off. Another bolted from the compound's east building, heading for the MG. Maybe he thought it still worked. Range, 1,470. Crack. He collapsed in the dust. This was what I did. Not rage. Not vengeance. Just control. Clean, quiet, final. Through my scope, I saw a fighter run up a rear stairwell with something on his shoulder. RPG. Target with rocket. Northern roof. Range, 1,630 meters. Crack. He fell backward, the launcher clattering beside him. Overwatch to Griffin team. Rocket inbound averted. Copy, Overwatch. You're saving our skins down here. For the next 20 minutes, I peeled threats off the battlefield one by one. 7 more targets down, all between 1,400 and 1,700 meters. The SEALs breached the compound cleanly, caught the enemy mid-shift, and cleared every building. At last, Moro's voice came through. Griffin actual. Compound secure. HVT confirmed Kia. Overwatch copies. Maintaining high station until exfil. I stayed prone, watching the ridgelines like a hawk, but there was nothing left. Only silence, and corpses that never saw what hit them. The compound was littered with scorched gear, scattered ammo, and empty threats. As the SEALs gathered intel and swept for booby traps, I held position. Still, watchful, invisible again. I wasn't the kind to talk much on comms, and they didn't ask me to. I watched their backs while they pulled data drives from steel lockers and rolled up enemy documents with the kind of speed only experience brings. These weren't rookies. They moved like wolves with a scent, efficient, quiet, and deadly. Moro's voice eventually broke the silence. Griffin 6 to Overwatch. We're exfil ready. 20 mics to LZ Echo. Copy. Moving to link up. I packed my gear in under 90 seconds. Everything went back into its place. Rifle secured, data logged, glass wiped, footprints brushed away. The mountain would forget me quickly, the way it always does. When I arrived at the extraction point, the SEALs were already forming a perimeter, gear heavy with loot and proof of target kill. Moro approached first, his face still carrying that same cautious respect he'd had since I pulled the trigger on the first sniper. Sergeant Vale, he said. Final tally from my side. 11 confirmed enemy kills. All by your fire. I nodded. Just did what was needed. That's not what most shooters would call it. Chief Maddox stepped up beside him. I've been around precision shooters all my career. None of them shot like that. You made 2,000-meter kills look like target practice. Discipline, I replied. Math. Training. Not magic. But it felt like magic, Maddox said, a small grin cracking through. Felt like a damn ghost with a trigger finger was watching over us. In the Black Hawk, no one spoke for a while. just the rhythmic chop of the rotors and the weight of sweat and adrenaline fading from our systems. A few of the SEALs finally leaned in, curious now that the firefight was over. "What's your glass? That optic didn't look standard." "Custom built," I said. "Glass milled in Sweden. Turrets hand-fitted. Same with the barrel. Tuned for high-altitude pressure swings." "What's your longest shot?" "Before today, 2340. And today, 2800. Flat." Silence. Morrow turned to me like he hadn't heard me correctly. "Say again." "One of the shooters on the northern ridge was at 2800. Wind gave me a clean corridor. I took it." Chief Maddox just stared. "That's record-breaking." I shrugged. "Only if someone writes it down." We landed back at base during around midnight. The SEALs dispersed, heading for debriefs, showers, and sleep. I didn't. Instead, I walked straight to Ops, where Colonel Davis Trent was waiting, hands behind his back, eyes on the mission board. He didn't look at me when I entered. "Sergeant Vale," he said. 11 kills. Confirmed. All precision. No collateral. My men returned without a scratch. I'd call that a flawless support run." "Appreciate it, sir." He turned finally, his face carved from granite, but something flickered in his eyes, something rare. "Admiration. You understand you've just rewritten the book on Overwatch operations." I didn't answer. He continued. "That 2800-meter shot? I'll be filing it up the chain. You've done something here that'll be studied for years." "I'm not looking for attention." "Good," he said, "because it's already coming." 3 days later, I supported another mission. Then another. Then a third. Each time, I moved solo through terrain that most considered impassable, set up Overwatch from positions that looked more myth than map. The kills kept coming, clean, distant, exact. By the end of the second week, they'd stopped calling me Sniper altogether. They called me the Mist, because I moved like it. Rolled in, silent and unseen. Made threats vanish, then disappeared again before anyone knew what they'd witnessed. Just like fog. By the time the third week rolled in, I'd been part of 8 different missions. Always from the high ground. Always alone. No friendly casualties. 43 confirmed kills. Most of them never even knew someone had eyes on them. The fog hid me. The rifle ended them. It was after the third mission that the name really stuck. We were back at Duran Base, and I was loading gear into a low-profile Humvee when one of the younger SEALs, Petty Officer Daxel, walked by and muttered to another, "She's not even human, man. Just mist and steel." The other SEAL laughed. "She's not Riona. She's the mist. You don't see her. You feel her." They didn't know I heard. Didn't know I smiled. Because that's what I wanted. Not medals. Not applause. Just the truth left in my wake. If you're an enemy, you won't know I'm there until your world goes black. The missions were getting harder. Enemy forces had begun changing tactics, pulling back their spotters, rotating positions faster, increasing drone usage. But it didn't matter. I moved faster. Colonel Trent pulled me in again. "This next one," he said, pointing to a digital map on the screen, "is different. More dangerous. Intelligence confirms our HVT, one we've been tracking for 6 months, is going to be here tomorrow. He's responsible for at least 40 of our casualties. Coalition wants him gone." "What's the complication?" I asked. He tapped a spot on the map. "Compounds inside a civilian-heavy valley. No airstrikes. No direct assault without risking innocence." "So it needs a sniper," I said. "A miracle shot," he corrected. "We've got one viable Overwatch position, but it's 2,800 meters out." I let that sit for a second. That distance stretched the limit of my gear, my math, and my instincts. "I've never fired that far in combat," I said honestly. "You're the only one who can try," he replied. "No pressure. But if you don't take the shot, he vanishes into the mountains again. Maybe for good." I studied the map, wind patterns, slope angles. If the weather held, and I had 6 hours to prep, maybe. I'll take it. That night, I barely slept. Not out of fear. Out of calculation. Every variable danced in my head. Altitude, angle of descent, wind layers, bullet drift, humidity curves, spin drift. I was playing 4D chess with physics, and there was no room for a mistake. At 0430, I was in a Black Hawk headed for the insertion point. The pilot looked back at me once. "Not gonna lie, Sergeant. I don't like hovering this high in that range. Thin air and nowhere to go if it goes bad." "Then let's make it fast," I said. He nodded, throttled back, and let me jump. I hit the ridgeline hard, 9,100 feet above sea level, and immediately began building my nest. The valley below was barely a smear of green under morning cloud. I used a laser rangefinder to mark distances: 2,784 meters to the near wall, 2,806 to the HVT's expected location. I checked every 200-meter interval for wind activity using movement in brush and flagged thermals. Air temp was 50 degrees Fahrenheit, humidity at 72%, barometric pressure steady. Wind was light, 4 miles per hour at my position, but varying below. I spent hours plotting it all. Then I waited. At 12:02, the HVT stepped into the courtyard. He was shorter than I expected, flanked by 2 guards, and walking like he owned the planet. He paused beside a supply truck, arguing with someone. I exhaled slowly, let my pulse drift. My reticle wasn't even on him. It was above and to the right, accounting for bullet drop and crosswind. 4, 3 seconds of flight time. Holdover, 78. For MOA elevation. 13. 2 MOA windage. I eased the trigger. The rifle cracked. Time slowed. Through the scope, I watched him fold. Just collapse. No sound. No struggle. Just sudden stillness. People scattered. Some screamed. No one fired. They had no idea where it came from. Overwatch 1 to Falcon Base. I whispered. Target down. Confirmed hit. Range, 2,795 meters. Silence. Then Colonel Trent's voice crackled through, almost reverent. Did you say 2795? Affirmative. Another pause. Sergeant Vale, you just made history. When I returned to Base Durin, they were waiting for me. Colonel Trent, a mission debriefer, and a 2-star general I'd never met. Major General Eileen Voss. She didn't wear medals or theatrics, just a uniform that fit like command. Her voice was measured, curious. I've read your report, Sergeant, she began. Confirmed the range data. Verified the imagery. You made a 2,795-meter kill shot. Do you understand what that means? I nodded, calm but grounded. I know the distance. It exceeds any known combat kill by several hundred meters. It wasn't supposed to be possible. With respect, ma'am, I said, what's supposed to be possible is often just a limitation of preparation. She blinked, then smiled faintly. You're being promoted. Effective immediately, Sergeant First Class. You're also receiving a Bronze Star with Valor. But the medal's just paperwork. What you did today changed doctrine. Colonel Trent added, the Pentagon will want a full breakdown of your gear, methods, and math. I can give them that, I said. But most of it's just patience, practice, and knowing how to listen to the wind. After the ceremony, small, private, just the way I liked it, I found myself alone in the armory cleaning my rifle. I always did it myself. The weapon wasn't just gear. It was a conversation between metal and physics, and I trusted no one else to translate it. Chief Maddox found me there, leaning in the doorway. Could have let someone else do that for once, he said. I shook my head. Cleaning your own tool is respect. You ask it to do the impossible. Least you can do is wipe it down after. He chuckled, then held out a thermos. Brought you coffee. You've earned worse. I accepted it, grateful. The guys are calling it the missed shot, he added. Some of them swear the fog shifted just enough for that shot because it wanted to help you. Superstitions, I said. Maybe, he said. But you should know something. That shot, it's already gone viral in our circles. SEAL teams, recon units, sniper schools. They're calling you more than the mist now. They're calling you a legend. I looked back at my rifle, still half disassembled. Let them call me what they want, I said. As long as they remember that it wasn't a miracle. It was math, willpower, and knowing how to move when no one's looking. The next day, I received new orders. Transfer. A specialist unit, classified. Tasked with extreme long-range operations. Training others. Pushing limits. Colonel Trent gave me the news personally. They want you to do for others what you just proved is possible, he said. You've redefined Overwatch capability. They want you to teach it. Understood, I said, but I wasn't sure I wanted to teach. Killing from nearly 3 kilometers away wasn't a theory. It was a lifetime of practice, of mistakes, of freezing nights and bleeding hands. You didn't teach that. You lived it. Still, maybe someone could learn. And maybe one day, they'd take a shot that saved a dozen lives, just like I had. Before I left, Morrow's team pulled me aside. 12 men in tactical gear, all silent except for the one who'd spoken first the day I emerged from the fog. Morrow looked at me, then at his team. "We wanted to say it face to face," he said. "You didn't just support us. You saved us. We don't forget that." Chief Maddox added, "We've worked with ghosts, with drone eyes, with satellites. But we've never had cover like you. Not at those ranges. Not with that clarity." One of the younger SEALs stepped forward. "Is it true?" he asked. "They call you the Mist?" I smirked. "Some do." "It fits," Morrow said. "You came when we couldn't see you. And when we did, you made the impossible look like routine." Then he offered his hand. And I shook it. I left Base Durin with little more than my rifle case, a rucksack, and a sealed set of orders. The rest of the world kept on spinning. New missions, new targets, the endless churn of war. But for me, something had shifted. For the first time in years, I wasn't alone in what I knew. People had seen what I could do. Not just a shot, but the method behind it. That kind of clarity comes with a price. Now they expected it again. The classified facility was buried in a mountainous region back home. Cold, isolated, perfect for focus. I arrived before dawn, met by a single handler who gave me a tour with more respect than friendliness. "You'll be working with select candidates only," he said. "Snipers from every branch. Elite. But none of them know how to do what you do." I didn't respond. I was already mapping wind corridors between the ridges outside. They gave me a teaching range that spanned nearly 3,000 meters. Steel targets were scattered like ghosts along snow-capped hills and rocky outcrops. Most couldn't even be seen without high-power glass. I ran the numbers. 2,900 meters to the farthest plate. Wind variance was savage up high. More than 16 miles per hour shifts over the final 500 meters. It was a brutal, unforgiving stretch. I loved it. Over the next 2 weeks, I trained 4 snipers. One was recon, 1 Delta, 2 were SEALs. All of them were competent, even exceptional, by most standards. But they weren't ready. Their first rounds past 2,000 meters missed by yards. They didn't understand that at that range, a whisper of wind becomes a shove, and a heartbeat can ruin everything. "This isn't distance shooting," I told them on day 4. "It's environmental management. Ballistic interpretation. You don't fire a round. You negotiate with it." They stared at me, wide-eyed, unsure if I was serious. I was. The recon guy, Corwin, was the first to close in on a real hit. 2,600 meters. His 6th attempt. "Clean fundamentals," I told him. "But your error came 400 meters out, not at the muzzle. You didn't read the low ridge drift." He blinked. "You can tell that just by the miss?" "Every miss tells a story. Listen closer." That night, he stayed behind to run more calculations. He was learning. By week 3, one of the SEALs managed a center mass hit at 2,720 meters. It wasn't luck. It was work. I didn't say good job. I didn't need to. He saw it in the nod I gave him. That was enough. Still, none of them were ready for combat. That kind of precision only gets proven with blood in the air and chaos in the valley. You can't teach that. You only survive it. Late one evening, General Voss visited the range. "Just observing," she said. She watched me run the team through rapid-fire calculations, then dragged them into a mock Overwatch sim. Dense fog, rotating wind gusts, pressure drops. Only one of them made the shot. Afterward, she approached as I packed up. "You think they'll be able to do what you did?" "No," I said plainly. "Not yet. But they're starting to think differently. That's step 1. She nodded. "Command's considering formalizing this, an extreme distance precision unit. You'd lead it." I hesitated. "I don't want to be in front of a podium," I said. "I don't want press briefings or names on plaques." She smiled. "Good. We're not offering that. Just a chance to keep doing what you do best. Quietly. Effectively." I looked out over the range. Wind was picking up again. Then I'm in. The program officially launched 1 month later. X-Range Precision Group. 5 operators. 1 mission. Make the impossible routine. I wasn't given a title. Didn't want one. But everyone knew who ran it. The instructors deferred to me. The range orders came through me. And the new blood quickly realized that when I spoke, it meant something you didn't learn in manuals. I kept the training harsh. Not to be cruel, but because the real world was worse. No warm-up shots. No rehearsed distances. I changed target locations every session, forced them to shoot through humidity shifts, sudden fog, or wind tunnels they hadn't modeled yet. One guy, Lieutenant Rivera, nearly broke on day 9. I can't make the shot. I've done the math. I've dialed everything. Still missed by 4 feet. I walked up behind him, crouched beside his bipod. Because you calculated what the wind should be, I said. You didn't account for what it became halfway down range. The math is a map, Rivera, not the terrain. He blinked. So what do? You read the terrain. I grabbed a handful of gravel and let it fall, watching how it fluttered. Every inch between you and the target is a lie waiting to happen. Your job is to catch the lie before it kills someone. He stared at me like I'd just handed him a new religion. 2 days later, he made a 2,830-meter hit. Word about us spread fast. Not in headlines, but in whispers. Rangers in the hills of Ethiopia began requesting mist-trained overwatch. Special forces in the Balkans carried encrypted files built from our training plans. And a unit in northern Alaska swore by our crosswind drill. The veil cut, they called it. I never asked for that name. Didn't stop them from using it. In my 4th month with the unit, we got word of a critical mission. A hostage recovery. No assault team. No close insertion. The only viable solution was a single overwatch shot. The request came in directly to General Voss. She called me to her office. It's in northern Syria, she said. High terrain on both sides. There's a window, maybe 12 seconds, where the HVT coordinating the operation will be outside. Distance, 2,910 meters. I nodded. I'll go. She hesitated. We've got 2 shooters who could try it. I'll go, I repeated. There was no ego in it. Just certainty. They flew me in under darkness. Dropped me on a ridgeline that barely had room for prone firing. I lay in silence for 8 hours, waiting. Every breeze was logged. Every minor temperature shift noted. Then, at 14:32 local time, the door opened on the target compound. The man stepped out. He never saw the bullet. I packed up in under 90 seconds. Faded into the hills. No one saw me leave. Later, I got the report. Hostage safe, mission successful. 1 shot, 1 result. Back at base, I didn't say much. The others debriefed. Celebrated quietly. I sat by my weapon bench, adjusting a windage dial that had shifted 0.2 MOA in the final minutes before the shot. It had still landed. But I didn't accept still. That's the difference. That's the edge. By the 6th month, X-Range had unofficially become the proving ground for the next generation of ghost shooters. Not everyone made it through. Some washed out during the wind index tests. Others cracked when asked to hold a firing posture for hours, locked in tension, waiting for a shot that might never come. But the ones who stayed? They were changing. I could see it in the way they moved, slower, more deliberate, like they were learning to listen to silence. That's when the Navy sent someone new. Senior Chief Barrett. Decorated SEAL sniper. More confirmed kills than anyone else in his unit. When he walked into our range, people turned. He didn't salute me. Didn't have to. This wasn't about rank. I've read the reports, he said. Heard about the shot. I'm not here to be impressed. I'm here to see if it's real. Good, I replied. Doubt keeps you sharp. He shadowed the team for a week. Watched drills. Took notes. Never fired a shot. Then one morning, I found him on the ridge before sunrise, glassing targets in the valley. I want to try, he said simply. I laid out the variables for a 2,860-meter plate. Wind was light, uphill gradient, mid-level cross shear. He took 20 minutes calculating. Adjusted his scope twice. Then fired. Missed by 2 feet right. He grunted. Adjusted. Second shot, center mass. Clean. He let out a low whistle. It's real, he said. Damn real. I nodded. It's not magic. Just math, discipline, and the will to sit with discomfort. He turned to me, serious now. I'd like to stay, help train. Then show them what it looks like to fail once. That's the only way they'll learn. That night, the team asked me to speak. Not give a speech. Just speak. So I did. You'll never make a shot like that because you want to, I told them. You'll make it because you have to. Because lives depend on it. And because in that moment, everything you've trained for is the only thing standing between order and chaos. I paused. Distance doesn't scare me. Missing does. Because a miss isn't just a mark on paper. Out there, a miss means someone doesn't come home. They listen like every word mattered. Because it did. A week later, Command authorized the deployment of 2 X-range trained snipers on real missions. I stayed behind to oversee Phase 2, Advanced Unknown Distance Calibration. That's when the first radio call came in. Shot confirmed. 2,740, 1 round. Target down. I closed my eyes and smiled. The work was holding. That evening, I stood alone on the range. My rifle cradled at my side, the wind slicing softly through the alpine air. The sun was setting, painting everything in gold and shadow. And for a moment, just one, I felt it. Not pride, not fame, but peace. The kind that only comes when you know, deep down, that you've done something rare. You've changed the shape of the possible. 6 months after the program began, I received a sealed order. Personal, direct from command. Not a deployment. Not a mission. A reassignment. They wanted me back in the field. Not to train. To operate. The environment. High-altitude terrain near the Raskian border. Intel indicated an arms broker with ties to half a dozen insurgent groups was moving through under heavy protection. No drones allowed. Too much risk of international detection. No airstrikes, urban proximity, and no room for error. There was one chance. One shot. Range, 2,950 meters. I looked at the file, ran the numbers in my head. It was past my record, past anything anyone had ever done. But not by much. I didn't hesitate. Send me in. The exfil and insertion were tight. I dropped from high altitude, solo, into a rock face barely wide enough for a prone position. No backup, no support, just the way I worked best. I spent 12 hours mapping wind vectors and tracking thermal drift. There was snow at elevation and dry scrub below, two competing ecosystems across a single bullet's path. I mapped it like a heartbeat. At 11:34 local time, the convoy arrived. Figures emerged. Guards swept the compound. Then, there he was. Target. Confirmed. Through my scope, he was barely human. Just geometry and consequence. I ran the final calculations. Holdover, 82. 3 MOA elevation. 14. 8 MOA windage. 4, 6 seconds of flight time. No room for doubt. I fired. The rifle kicked back with the thunder of prophecy. I stayed on glass. 4, 3, 2. And then, contact. Target dropped like a string was cut. No alarms. No echo. Just the wind. Back at base, no cameras were waiting. No crowd. Just Colonel Trent and a single, quiet nod. 2,950? He asked. Confirmed. You've done something here, he said. Again. I don't care about records, I replied. I know, he said. That's why you're the only one we trust to keep breaking them. I left the program 3 weeks later. Not out of protest. Not from exhaustion. Just instinct. I taught what I could. Left a trail behind me of clean shots and smarter shooters. But ghosts don't linger. We appear, solve problems others can't, and move on before the legend outgrows the truth. They still call me the Mist. I hear the whispers in comms chatter. The tales pass between units. Some say I'm not real. Some say I walk through fog like it obeys me. Others say I'm the last thing you see before everything goes quiet. All of them are wrong. I'm just a woman with a rifle, a map in her head, and a heart trained to beat in time with wind speed and scope sway. I don't do this for glory. I do it because someone has to. Because when the shot is impossible, when the target is 1.5 miles away and moving, that's when they call for the Mist. And I answer. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.